So I know all you guys are all pretty smart about this stuff by now, I'm sure, but I thought I'd run through folks that don't know how to do this. And
Well, that's what he's doing. Let me call.
Yeah, go over a couple of things, and we'll have a questions and answer at the end for any little questions that everybody might have about their own properties and special situations. Howdy. How are you? I've got my mask off because it's hard to hear me without it, okay, so stay away. I don't know if I can tell them that, but
I recognize you.
so first of all, I just want to say good morning, and it's really an honor to be here with everybody today, be up in Berry Creek. This is one of the first, I think, gatherings really that's happened up here since the fire.
Yay.
Words can't describe, right? What we've all been through here, and you know, my heart just goes out to everybody. And you know, I wasn't living up here when the fire happened. I moved to Orville about 4 years ago, but Berry Creek's my home, and you know, it's what I consider home. And I've been up here since I was 5 years old, coming up this mountain, and lived up here for 8 years. I was planning to move back actually any time before the fire happened. So my name is Matthew Trumm, in case you don't know.
Trum?
Yep.
Wait, so you're Trum?
Oh yeah, you know my dad.
Oh, your dad is Trum?
No,
Yeah, Mark-
Trum.
Oh, Trum.
Trum, Jordan, not Trump.
I thought he was doing my dad. So how did I get into all this? Why am I talking to you guys today? So when I was living up here in Berry Creek, I got into, you know, working with the land. Just like many of you, kind of found myself up here on the mountain.
Is this hot coffee?
And you know, did a lot of work with land restoration. Became a permaculture educator, designer. If you don't know what permaculture is, you can go talk to me over at the booth over here because it'll take a little while. But it's about, you know, realizing that we are part of nature.
Don't go over there. Stay right here.
And you know, that we can't ignore that. And I think it's events like this that really remind us that, you know,
I'm trying to listen. Be quiet.
we sometimes we forgot that, some of those realities. And so, you know, what permaculture does, it looks at systems, you know, ecosystems, and we say how can we design like an ecosystem for our own needs as well as nature. And so that's how I got into all this. And after the Campfire 2018, which my daughter was involved, her mother's house burned down in Paradise, and you know, right after that fire, I realized that I had a lot of these skills and knowledge to help people out, so I founded the Campfire Restoration Project, and that's the group here that we're putting this on today. And we started an ecosystem restoration camp to help people restore their land after the fire, and give out knowledge and resources to the community. And so I had been working really hard for a couple years on that project, and you know, and I was finally at a point where, like, I handed over the you know, the nonprofit. I stepped down from my executive director role and said I need to take a break, and then this fire happened. And I said, I guess I'm not taking a break. I guess I'm getting right back into it, because this is really close to home for me, and you know, and so I took everything that I learned, that I did right and wrong from that project, and was able to bring it here. And you know, a lot of good has happened. You guys have seen it all, and some of the things we had Cal OES you know, approve a project that helped a lot of people that are on critical watersheds up here to protect their home from toxic runoff They deployed about 150,000 linear feet of Wattles in Berry Creek. Conservation Corps did the work. That is also a really important thing to happen because it's a precedent now. It's a model that is being used all over the place. And what we think is going to happen is it's going to be incorporated in phase 1. Next year, we're going to see that as part of phase 1 is that they put up Wattles and other measures around homes. And I was able to share that with Santa Cruz County, and Santa Cruz County now got approved for the same thing. So we're spreading the model, which is really cool.
You have fun with these
And so, we can say Berry Creek was the first place to really do that, and it's spreading from here. So, without talking too much more, let's talk about this reality that we're all dealing with. We all have burned structures on our property, our homes, outbuildings, vehicles, much like what we see here behind us. And so what is a misunderstanding is phase 1 cleans up all the toxic debris on your property. That's not true. What they do is they remove anything that's visible with the eye, okay, that they can see. We know that these fires, actually most of the material, it's not visible with your eye to identify. So what they do is they take obvious stuff. They also defuse propane tanks and things like that and make it safe for the phase 2 to come in. But if it rains before phase 2 comes, then we've got all this material that's flowing into our soil, our gardens, our waterways, whatever. And it's not good stuff. We don't know exactly what's in all these buildings, right? But we know there's anything from arsenic, there's different benzenes, there's the asbestos on some older homes, there's different kinds of paint, there's leads, there's all sorts of things, there's the oils and stuff, the hydrocarbons, and so all this stuff is not good for our soils, a lot of heavy metals that accumulate, and the thing to understand is that they biomagnificate, it's called biomagnification. What that means is if it gets in the environment, and it gets into plants and animals eat that, then it goes through the food chain and it gets stored in fatty tissues. This is why that many of you are fishermen, know Lake Oroville, you gotta watch out for mercury, right, in the fish. Well, that is why. It's because it ends up in those fatty tissues in fish particularly is where a lot of it will end up. And it's a real thing, and I've been talking to people who've taken tests in Paradise and stuff that have taken water samples, different things, and it's something to be really concerned about. So we want to try to prevent that from running off from our home sites. You guys mind to try to keep it down a little bit for us? Thank you. I tried to set up here something that looks familiar to most situations. I've got a couple different tools here that I've got out for demonstration. But does everybody get one of these here? Okay, so I'm going to pretty much run through this here. So we're looking at, we're basically looking at a couple of different materials. Over there you see the Wattles. That's what most people are familiar with, the straw Wattles. Okay, now those are fine for erosion, and if that's what you have, it's what usually people can get. They're the cheaper version. They're not cheap, right? They're like, I don't know, $1.05 a foot. It's not cheap, and they're not super effective for toxins. Okay, these guys here, this is Compost Socks, and what it is a broke down, it's a screen product from a compost operation that is much better for absorbing heavy metals and other toxins. We have Brian and Matt from Filtrex over here. You guys raise your hand. They have a booth, and they can tell you guys a little bit more about that product. But and you say, okay, well, this is like got plastics and stuff on it. That's, you know, it's not the best for the environment. Okay, that's true, but we also, these are to be put right around your home sites and places where they're going to be cleaning up in phase 2. So it's actually better because they're going to be easier to lift with the tractors and load up into the bins to haul away. When you use unfortunately, when you use a biodegradable material, it often breaks apart, and it's really hard for them to load it. And also, then you're spreading that whatever toxins that were in it, it kind of spreads around, and that's not good. So it's not, you know, the best choice, you know, but it is for our situation. You wouldn't want to use these out in the landscape, you know, further away that's not going to be picked up, you know, but for this situation, it's good. Yeah, they are better for absorbing heavy metals and other toxins, but they're also better for erosion too. Silts and everything get caught up in these much better, and the water can flow through as well. So what you want to look for, every property is different, but what I recommend is to go about 5 feet out or so from the burn structure. Now, anytime you're working around these materials, please wear a hazmat suit and an actual one of the what do you call them? Respirators. The respirators with the filters on it. If you're going to be working anywhere in and around your home site, you know, it's really important. These N95s, these guys, they don't do the trick for some of these toxins. So I highly recommend that. And then what you want to look at is you want to find the contour of the landscape. What that means is simply the level lines of the landscape. So there's several tools you can use for that. You can go from super duper fancy over here. This is a laser level, right? So if you have a huge property and you can afford this, it's a really great tool. Is what the surveyors use, and it allows you to find level all around your property. It beeps, beep, 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 and then you mark it. You could use your just a regular level, you know, to figure it out. All right, find the level. This is a great tool. You can make these just with string and a weight, but this is an A-frame, and I just put a you know, level on there. But what this allows me to do is find level here. Okay, and then what I do is then I go ahead and mark it with a flag. And this is not going to work very well because it's gravel here, but and then you move along. Okay, and then you mark out your line. And so this is going to be important if you're picking up these Wattles, these compost socks today, because they come in 200-foot lengths, which Brian gave us a really good deal because of it. So that's why. But what we're asking you to do is go ahead and figure out how much distance you have. So I've been doing a lot of properties. I've been hired to do consultation on a lot of people's properties, and I bring one of these out and I mark. You know, I get an idea how many feet that I'm going to need, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys some zip ties with these so you can cut them to the exact length that you want. I recommend not doing it more than 30 feet because 30 feet, after that it gets pretty challenging to move them. Probably 2 people to a 30-foot piece as well is what I think, right? Something like that. So site assessment, you know, that's what we're talking about here first. The other thing to think about is if you have a overlap. So we tie this here. I don't know if we have any zip ties over there, but grab one. Now this is important. So let's say we're going downslope this way, all right? So when you stack these, what you want to do is you want to make sure you do it like a roofing tile, okay? So that the downslope wattle is underneath the one above, right? So when the water flows, it flows on top. It's not like this, and the material will just come out this way, right? So pretty simple, but you know, just important to point out. Now these guys here, if they have contact with the ground at all, they're much better for just, you know, sticking. They'll actually adhere to the ground. But I recommend digging a little tiny trench. For these guys, I would dig a deeper trench for the straw wattles. But for the compost socks, you only need to do a little bit because they'll stick to it. And maybe Brian wants to say anything more. Feel free to butt in, Brian, if there's anything else I'm missing there. But you just want to basically break the surface of the soil, at least. Now, if you were going to do it on the straw wattles, I'll show you guys here. So you got a slope, right? And say here's the birch structure right here. So you go about 5 feet out, you mark it, and then you're gonna go ahead and dig down, and you're gonna pile that soil downhill just a little bit, right? So you created this little trench. Now we do this for water harvesting systems in permaculture called swales, where we use it like a dam, you know, like a mini dam, but a long one, right? And so this is where you place your wattle or your compost sock, is right down in there. Okay, so when the water flows down the hill, it penetrates this, and it's gonna get caught up in here. Okay, so if you have like a pretty steep situation, you might want to do, 2 rows of materials. You can also, if you have a steep situation, you can also do a triple stack, which Brian recommends for these socks as well. You can stack them up like that, and then you know if you have a heavy flow and you're going to see maybe a little bit of erosion or extra materials build up, that it doesn't go over the top of that berm. Okay, so that's the main thing. You're gonna cut that in. You're gonna place your, and this is really important, especially if you're around any debris, that you're wearing that mask, because this is the part, especially the people doing the picking or the shoveling, that's where stuff's going to come up in the air, okay? So be careful. I don't want to ruin their parking lot, but this will give you guys an idea, and then we'll set that in there, okay? Now, Brian, you're spacing them around 6 feet? 10 feet, okay. So with the wattles, you want to do about 4 or 5 feet. But with these compost socks, they're heavier, so you don't have to do it as often. So he said about every 10 feet. You should have some stakes that come with them, and a little mini sledgehammer is good. And then right through the center of these. And I'm not gonna, like I said, this is really hard here. Yeah, I'm gonna break this probably before, but yeah, I mean, if you have a situation that is really hard, or it's on cement or something like that, you might want to collect some stones, some rock, and use that to hold it down. So you have to get creative sometimes, but we're good at that, right? And very creative. We're pretty good at that. So. Yeah, really, that's all there is to it. Sometimes you don't have a lot of these. So the important thing here with the compost socks, these are your real filters. So if you didn't have these materials, you can use all kinds of other stuff. You could dig a ditch and you could put straw in it. You could put wood chips in it if you had to. You can take straw wattles, and something that I've done a couple different sites. I'm gonna cut this here. Let's pretend these are Wattles and not Compost Socks, or let's say they're logs. And you don't have a lot of materials. What you can do is have these Wattles go off contour a little bit, meaning they're sloping downhill a little bit, and they're directing the flow to one location. And then you could use maybe one compost sock or something that has a little bit better filtration at the bottom of that. So what it's doing is it's still passively using that wattle to sort of absorb and pick up a lot of that sediment on the way, but then ultimately ends up here for your real filtration. I've also done that at the bottom of properties where everything flows to one location, and then I've dug a big pit and I filled it with wood chips, debris, things like that. So it's kind of your last resort, like everything flows through, and if it, last place that it possibly can go is there. And you can just dig that out and get it, remove it later, or see if phase 2 can clean it out for you when they're there. That's possible. So you can get creative. You can also, for erosion, you can do the same thing we're doing here, but with trees. So I'm gonna kind of erase this here. So we've got trees everywhere, right, on our properties, dead trees. And so I'm actually gonna go a little bit more extreme than that. Let's see. Okay, that looks more familiar, right? So what you could do is cut your stumps at about knee height. Right here, your trees at knee height down below, and then you could drop. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit, and then you could drop trees on contour behind those. So if you were looking at the hill like this, right?
All everything side hills out for sale?
Yeah. So that way, so what's happening here, this is really important, because if we get a heavy rain, that little bit of topsoil is where all your seed banks are, any bit of topsoil that's left, all your organic matter that's fallen since the fire,
don't put it in your mouth.
your pine needles, your leaves and everything, and it's just going to go right into the creeks, and wash away if we have a heavy rain. But if we do this, what's going to happen is it's going to accumulate behind these logs, right? And it's going to build up, and that's going to be a place where life is going to come back. And you're going to have these little islands of life behind these logs, and it's going to be really good. And it's also going to create, it's going to turn these logs into a sponge over the winter time. The best time to put material on the ground is now, in the fall. So if you're going to put out wood chips, this is a big misunderstanding with, like the fire safety of wood chips. Well, yeah, if you put them out in the spring, it's not good because it can be a fire hazard. It's going to be dry all summer long, right? But if you put them down in the fall, up to a 2-inch, maybe, level, then it's going to absorb all that moisture in the wintertime. They're going to be food for the microorganisms in the soil and the fungi. They're going to come in there. And most people don't know this, but soil that has microbes, healthy microbes in it, and fungi, it holds 30 times more moisture than without. So that means that overall the forest, that this topsoil, if we work on building that topsoil and we work on building that healthy biology, then we're actually decreasing the overall fire hazards of our forest. And we're lowering the temperatures. We're also giving nutrients to all the things around it. So there's a balance. We can talk about it more with all these things. But this is really important because we're saving that topsoil and all that life. So yeah, use what you have. And you don't have, it doesn't have to be trees. It can be, whatever brush, like just a little layer of brush or something down. But map out that contour. I have a book over there from the Native Plant Society that I recommend everybody to pick up. It's like the do's and don'ts for fire recovery. And there's always a section in there that says do nothing. Because what it's saying is in the first 6 months, for areas that we don't have to go into, that aren't like in where our homes are and where we have to do some things right now, it's probably best to leave it alone until there's some roots in the ground, until we see some green growing. Because there's a crust layer on the soil right now, and when we trample on it, it breaks that crust layer and it will cause erosion. So we just encourage people for the first 6 months to really be careful when you do go out in the bigger part of the forest to pay attention to that and wait for some green to come out. And we've been lucky that the rains so far have been pretty mild, and that's what we hope for. Best case scenario is we have a couple mild rains and we get that green up, and before we have those big rains that we probably will have usually in January, February, March, around there. So that's pretty much my spiel. It's simple, and I'm happy to answer any questions after, and some right now if you feel it's relevant to everyone else. So, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the grass mixes you have over here and about seeding stuff?
Yes. So again, same rule applies where we don't recommend to seed your whole property, okay? Because most likely there's going to be a lot of native stuff coming back. Even though it doesn't seem like it, maybe, but you guys know every day you go back, you see more trees are sprouting back from the root, and most likely we're going to see a lot of native growth come up. So that is mostly for around our dwellings and stuff. And I wouldn't put it out in places they're going to go through with phase 2, but like gardens and areas that might have erosion that are further out from the home that are still in your developed areas around your home. It's a blend of native perennial grass seed, a whole bunch of diverse native seeds. There's yarrow in there. There's I can't even tell you all the names of the seeds, but they're all natives, lupin, and things like that. And then there's also some legumes varieties. So there's some vetch, clover, and a few other things in there that aren't native, but they're not noxious or invasive or anything like that. So yeah, everybody can grab a couple scoops of that grass mix and use it. And we didn't have a ton, but it's kind of to give you an example of something that you can get. We got a lot of that from Hedgerow Farms. The other of it's from the Floral Native Plant Nursery. Our friend Raphael donated to us, and also Peaceful Valley, which is in Grass Valley. They have a erosion mix that they put together, fire recovery erosion mix that we recommend. But we really encourage people to just observe for a little while and see what's going to happen. But I would put it right around my home, especially garden spaces and things like that. So
I was thinking more of we had a dozer line to our property. I was thinking about putting it on that.
that would be good. Yep. Yeah, when you do earthwork, get some cover crop immediately on it. I always top it with a little bit of straw, just to kind of hold it in, so if it rains, it kind of catches it on there. And make sure you use seedless straw, not hay, because the hay mixes have a lot of invasives in it that are not good. We don't want to spread around. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so the way this is going to work, at noon we're going to be giving away the compost socks to the community here, and we're going to have this be a big circle turnaround here, and we're going to have the tractor over here with forklift to load the vehicles, and so we'll have a line, and then somebody will pull up back in and we'll load them up. If you have a truck or trailer, there's quite a few folks that need help delivering to their property. And if you're willing to help out in that way, we could use the help. So come see me, and I have a list and some addresses, and we can kind of split it up maybe and help people out. Just do a little barn raising up here to help people get some materials to their site. So I did forget, if Brian, if you guys had anything else that you wanted to add about the compost socks, or?
Yeah, you did a great job.
Okay, you're gonna hire me pretty soon, right? Okay, perfect. Hey, thank you guys so much for coming today. There's lots of resources over here, so please don't leave without grabbing some of that. We're hoping to do more of these. Oh, by the way, if you didn't hear my spiel before, this is our mobile composting toilet over here that we built for the Campfire Restoration Project. It's a demonstration model that we move all over the place. It's a really simple system to build. We highly recommend it. It's one of we think that the sewer systems and stuff is probably the biggest waste of amazing nutrient value that we have. These are way better than a porta potty. They don't stink. The instructions are on the back side of the door, so if you go over there and make a deposit for us, you can read how it works. You just add a little bit of sawdust on top of your deposit, and that's really all there is to it. So, and I can teach people how to build these. It's pretty simple. That whole unit costs about $100 to build. So, anyways, just another thing to share. All right, thank you guys. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, for all you guys that don't know Matthew, I want to say that I met Matthew about 6 years ago, and he and I were involved in a project together. Once he sets his mind to get something done, it gets done. He's moving a lot faster than our own government is doing. I want to thank you for all your support and help the Berry Creek community. Yes.
Thank you guys. Yeah.